anyone who works in finance, you know that people don't price things correctly in the market in general, and that's why you make money because you price things better than them, so you know when to buy and when to sell. But I want to apply this to life, and in life, right? People don't price things correctly. So like a lot of people are afraid of flying, and so they'll be like saying prayers at the airport and like thinking they're gonna die. But like the drive to the airport, you're like 1,000 times more likely to die there than on the flight itself. Like there's a lot of data on this. So that's just like an obvious example of how people don't price risk correctly. And in prop trading and hedge funds, we're basically exploiting that flaw in human nature.
Yes, people don't price things correctly. We're emotional beings. It's trying to use logic to explain emotion. Doesn't work.
But in financial markets, but that's like a topic for another time. I want to talk about how people are always triple long and they don't seem to realize it. So triple long, what do I mean by that? You know, there are like triple long ETFs, like S&P 500, triple long ETFs. You can look this stuff up, but it's basically like, it's as if you're like 3 times as long in that position. And people are generally triple long in their life and they don't realize it. What do I mean by that? Um, they're long their job, they're long their stock or equity within the company, or RSUs, and they're long their home, their real estate. So it can go your way and it can go against you. In Silicon Valley, right? A lot of my friends ended up there around 2010, and a lot of them are just like average smart guys, but they got into some big tech firm and they have more money than me because they bought a home there and they got into this big tech firm and they have equity at their firm. So their equity shot up like 500% or more, and their home shot up like 500% or more. And times are good, so their salary just keeps going up. And, you know, promotions are handed out and so on. And so, you know, when times are good, times are good. But when you're triple long, what happens when times are bad? So I have a friend who worked as an engineer at ExxonMobil, and she was at the plant outside of Chicago in Illinois. And
I have a friend who was triple long in the healthcare space, and given that healthcare don't really appreciate their workers like systems and software engineers do, they're still broke. I'm talking about nurses, not the doctors. Yes, doctors get paid better, but it's just gotten crazy for nurses out here. Triple long nursing, you ain't getting rich. No, you ain't.
ExxonMobil had a pretty big contraction at one point. This might have been like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Anyways, they basically closed that plant outside of Chicago. And so they laid off everyone at that plant, or they gave them the opportunity to relocate to their Houston headquarters. And so a lot of people have their families there and their kids in the school districts, and they weren't willing to do that. So they just got laid off. And what happened is they lost their job when these announcements came out that ExxonMobil is like closing factories. The stock sold off by like 50% or something, and you have a lot of equity in your own firm usually because you get to like buy into them at a like discounted rate or whatever. So they all their equity in Exxon lost 50%, and then their homes lost 50%
Ouch.
because they closed that plant, and that plant was the major thing driving the local economy. So a large percentage of the employees like lived in those neighborhoods outside of that factory. So that's an example of when you're triple long, how you can get steamrolled. And I think a lot of these people didn't realize that, especially with like mortgages, you're inherently leveraged because, well, I'm sure you guys know how mortgages work. So you can be underwater.
Shout out to Lit Nomad for this content. He's a very smart dude, as you can tell. He thinks logically. He's very, very analytical about his choices. That's why I got into his content. You know, I've subscribed to his channel because I find him to be very interesting. I like people who uh, who have demonstrated expertise in their profession, and they're also willing to try something else to step out of the box. And that's exactly what he's talking about here. You have to know when to take money off the top. You have to know when to cash out and then get back into a different market. Being triple long, going long at a position, it works, but when there's a downside, when the market, and this is with any market, when there's a market downturn, you can get burned. So you want to know when to take profit.
Or after that, right? When your home loses 50%, you're most likely underwater, in fact. So yeah, my friend was lucky because she was doing like a reverse commute from Chicago. So she just bought a condo in South Loop, which kind of held its value. South Loop didn't really go up that much, but at least it like went sideways. But all of her peers who bought in the suburbs closer to that ExxonMobil factory, their homes lost 50%. So that's sort of that's sort of the point I'm trying to make. You think you're managing your risk correctly, but you're not. You're exposed to a triple long risk. You're exposed to career risk, equity risk, and real estate risk. And no one tells you this because all the people involved in these industries want you to continue putting your money in them. So it's sort of like I wouldn't say a cartel, but it's like people are colluding together. Different parties are all colluding together to keep you in the dark about your inherent risk. And this is a large risk. And I just want people to know that. The reason I chose prop trading as an industry is because prop trading is inherently counter-cyclical. So what I mean by that is that it does the opposite. So when the market is grinding up, bonuses are small because markets are calm and there's nothing to trade because prop trading firms make money off of price inefficiency and panic. And when the markets are crashing and the economy is, really not doing well, prop trading firms make their biggest money. Prop trading firms are feast or famine in that way. And it's actually quite beneficial to be in a countercyclical industry because you get your biggest bonus when the markets are crashing. So like the guys at Getco who made their biggest bonus in 08, 09 during the financial crash, like traders there made like first year traders there made $1 million bonuses. Like you can look this up. And they got their bonuses in like January and the market bottomed out around February or March 2009, like around SPOO 666. So imagine you get your $1 million bonus there and you sock it into the market there. It's up almost 10x from there. And that's just stocks, right? If real estate is more your taste, people's home prices halved or worse. And they're losing their jobs and they need to panic sell. And I mean, it's predatory, but you can put in a low ball bid and just, say, hey, you sure, you want to sell this to me? Like, you don't want to default, right? That's bad for your credit. And then people will just puke out of their homes and sell like 10% lower than mid market. And, you know, Fed's lowering interest rates because the markets are crashing and they're trying to stabilize the market. So you can get like a 30-year fixed rate mortgage at like 2% and put in a lowball bid and scoop up some like great real estate at huge discounts. So those are the hidden benefits of working for a countercyclical industry. You have money when other people don't have money, and that's actually like wildly important. And
Maybe I think I also worked in a counter-cyclical industry in healthcare as a registered nurse for 15 years. Because healthcare is a service, and that does not care about the economic space, whether it's a recession or there's a bull market. People are always going to need healthcare. So I always had a job and I always had income, regardless of what the market did. When it comes to quant trading, you're not providing any service. You're just actually like a parasite, just collecting money from the market. So I'm not judging that because they also provide value. They provide liquidity to the market, but it's also a dirty game. Um, but I understand what he's saying, and I don't have any negative view on people who capitalize on market opportunities. That's what the free market is. If you panic sell, there's someone on the other end that's going to buy it from you. and vice versa. You just need to know what you're doing, or you're going to lose your shirt, or you're going to make a lot of money. That's free market. We like free market. There's no emotions there. Okay. Um, that's that.
It's like when everyone's on the same side of the canoe and it tips over. Like, you don't ever want to be in that situation. You want to be doing the reverse commute, right? So when everyone's in traffic, stuck on the other side, you're just flying down the highway going 80. There's like a huge hidden benefit to being like in a countercyclical industry. Prop trading is the best example of a countercyclical industry I can think of, but the media is another example, right? Like they complain about Trump when like, oh no, Trump's president, but they were actually like salivating because like viewership and CNN and all those mainstream news channels went up like crazy because everyone's like, oh no, is the world gonna end? And they made a lot of money from that. And another countercyclical industry I can think of is like pharmaceuticals during the pandemic. I'm sure there are others, but prop trading is the cleanest example I can think of. I'm not triple long.
Maine.
My net worth might be in the S&P or real estate, and when the market crashes, my happiness is hedged because I know that my net worth is contracting, but I'm going to get one of my biggest bonuses that year, and I'm going to be able to take my bonus money and put it in the market somewhere near the lows. And so my wealth is hedged and my happiness is hedged as well. And then on the flip side, if if it's just like the markets are dead and quiet and just quietly drifting up for a couple of years in a row, they might have layoffs at prop trading firms because there's nothing to trade. But jobs are plentiful elsewhere because the economy is roaring. So you can easily pivot into like being a data scientist in big tech or something. So you're hedged in that way too. It's easy for quants to kind of like jump from like quant finance, elite finance to big tech, from like quant to like data scientist or something. People do it all the time. Like Citadel quants jump over to be like Uber data scientist, and they do it the other way as well. It's kind of like the high paying industries. The smart people at the high paying industries just bounce between them depending on like which sector is doing well. So yeah, I would encourage you to consider that aspect of how you manage the risk in your own life. Sorry, one final point. Wealthy people understand that normal people are triple long, and they don't want to be triple long. So what they do is they invest in hedge funds. And so why is it called a hedge fund? Because they're hedging your risk. There's a well-known bet that Warren Buffett made where he said, oh, I bet the S&P will outperform these hedge funds. Yeah, buddy, like we know that. We know that. We're taking 30% as a cut. So there's that. But two, we're not investing in correlated asset classes as the S&P, real estate. Most people don't know this, but even flight to safety asset classes like bonds and gold, they all crash when the market is panicking because there's deleveraging happening. And so you're really not safe anywhere. And so where do wealthy people put their money to diversify? They put them in hedge funds because hedge funds use unique strategies that are actually not correlated with all of the known investment classes. Like, go look at the price of gold, bonds, like during major crashes, they all sell off. But with certain hedge funds, they won't. They'll go up because hedge funds are inherently uncorrelated with major products. They'll short, right? There's that movie with Seth Rogen where his hedge fund was picking individual equity names and shorting them. That's the kind of thing a hedge fund does because that's uncorrelated with performance of the broad market. And so, yes, you're going to give up a little bit of performance by, because it's hard to find an asset class. It's hard to find some kind of investment vehicle that is uncorrelated with the broad market. The broad market is the easiest way to generate returns because you're basically investing in the labor of intelligent people who are trying to grow the firms they work at for their shareholders. And basically all the smart kids in your high school are now running companies, and you want, you know, you're basically betting on those horses. Like, would you bet on them to get an A on their school project? Of course you would. They're the smart kids. Well, those smart kids are now, you know, running these companies, and they're using all of their intelligence to try to grow these companies and make them more profitable. So being long the market is just doing that. You're just betting on all the smart people who run the Fortune 500 companies to continue to grow them and use things like technology to, you know, increase profits and, lower expenses. So, anyways, that's a tangent, but like, yeah, I just wanted to drive that point home about hedge funds. Hedge funds are called hedge funds because they hedge against.
Yeah, that's all. That's cute. I like that. We get to listen, get the view of an insider, someone who performed in a hedge fund at a higher level than all the garbage that you hear in media. They present these hedge funds like they're gods, and they're like these, you know, untouchable, super smart people that make billions of dollars. No, they're just vultures. Like they're useful vultures. Don't get me wrong. Parasites are useful. Everybody in the ecosystem is useful. The smart people who are running the companies like Meta and space in Tesla, those smart people, they're generating a specific type of value. The quant trader, the hedge fund trader, they're also providing liquidity. They're taking money. The money moves around. That's the free market. I'm not hating on any aspect of it. What I don't like is lying and people who pretend that they're not in it for the money. I don't like that there isn't any school for hedge fund. Why wasn't that an option when I was coming up and considering what I was going to do for university for my college degree? Quant trading should be one of them. So that's I think that we're approaching an era of transparency. The middlemen are completely being obliterated. All these institutions that kept lying to young children, like the truth is out there. Now we know what quant trading is, and if you want to go into it, you can go into it. If you want to go into startup creation and agriculture, and the inside truth, you can actually listen to people who have played in that space, and you can get the truth from them rather than these experts that haven't built anything. The Neil deGrasse Tyson type of people. Like we don't need those type of people anymore. These academias that think that they know everything but never built anything. Okay, so listening to Lit Nomad is refreshing. Go subscribe to his channel if you don't know about him.